printing service. May I suggest either the National Green, avoiding novelty or colored paper. I prefer white paper to add to your mix. And being in Ontario, we always use hydroponic. Be sure to remove any twigs and seeds. Now, the way you distribute the mix will determine the shape of your joint. I prefer the classic cone-shaped joint, what the young people call a coner. Pick everything up, start in the middle, roll outwards, and let your thumbs do most of the work. When you have an even consistency, wrap the excess paper around the joint, wet the paper, and seal the joint. Excellent. Firm, but not too firm. And remember, Canada, it's the loose joints that tend to fall apart, leaving unsightly toque burns on your chairs or on your bow tie. We all want to avoid, don't we? I'm Peter Burton, and that's how to roll a joint.
Wait. You munchies. Sweet. Welcome to Canada.
Oh, hey, next break, grab me and we'll go to one of those bumpers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do the tour.
We're back. So, that is our Pierre Burton. Great sense of humor. He took a bit of flack over that. I don't know if you remember when that came out. And I think his response was, I'm over 80, I don't give a damn what you think.
Yes. Oh, it's so boring that we have nothing to do.
Oh. Wow, Justin, are we going to get porn eventually? There we go. Evelyn Martins, born and raised in Alberta, Canada, lived much of her early years in Hinton, Alberta. In the early part of the 1990s, Evelyn became quite active in the Right to Die Society, a society which provides terminally ill patients with information which allows patients to end their lives safely. In 2002, Evelyn was charged with counseling and aiding former nun Monique Charest, 64, to commit suicide January 7th, 2002 in Duncan, BC. She also faced charges related to a June 26th death of Leanne Burchell, 52, a school teacher in Vancouver, BC. The maximum sentence was 14 years imprisonment. Many of you will be intimately familiar with this case from the HAC meeting in it was Ottawa in 2005. She was eventually acquitted of both charges, and because in both cases Charest and Burchell voluntarily took their own lives. To resounding success, an Evelyn Martins Defense Fund was established to raise money for court fees. In June 2005, Evelyn was presented with the Humanist of the Year Award in Ottawa from the Humanist Association of Canada. This is Jan Narveson. Jan was educated at the University of Chicago and later earned his PhD from Harvard in 1961. He spent a year at Oxford in 59-60 on a traveling fellowship. He initially taught at the University of New Hampshire from 61 to 63, but then was recruited to help start up the philosophy department at the University of Waterloo in Ontario, where he retired in 2005. Jan's a friend of mine, he's a past professor of mine and mentor. He's published dozens of articles in professional journals and has written several books. His main professional interests lie in moral and political philosophy, specifically dealing with notions of personal and social liberty. Jan's a hardcore libertarian, but not the wacky kind, where it's just, he's a very tempered thinker. He's very, very clear thinker, very good a logician as well. And he's an avowed atheist and fierce debater and professional in social circles. He was the second atheist invited to the World Religions Conference, which is held annually in Waterloo, Ontario. One of Jan's most succinct critiques against the existence of God came during a debate in 1996 against William Craig at the University of Toronto. Narveson is listed in the Canadian Who's Who, Contemporary Authors, and Who's Who in American Education. In 1989, he was elected to membership in the Royal Society of Canada. Again, many of you will know Michael Persinger, Dr. Persinger, attended Carroll College, and then graduated from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, with a major in psych, got his MA in physiological psychology, and then his PhD from the University of Manitoba in '71, and then he joined Laurentian University and has been there ever since in Sudbury, Ontario. He's published more than 200 technical articles in refereed journals and has written 6 books. As a neuroscientist, much of Persinger's work focuses on the subtle interactions between geophysical and meteorological environments and human behavior. That is to say, the effects of magnetic fields on human behavior. This has led him to search for neurological explanations regarding illusory accounts of causal relationships, specifically attributions of unseen forces. By the way, if you ever hear of investigations of alien abductions, he's one of the first guys who's going to get the call, because he's done so many cases of where people swear they have been abducted. It's not a dream, it actually happened. And then what Persinger often finds out is that there was some type of low magnetic field in the area in which these people were sleeping, which gave them a certain type of visual dream because the right parietal lobe of their brain was being stimulated by this low-level electromagnetic radiation. And he seems to find this thematically over and over and over again in these abduction cases. So instead of thinking you're crazy, instead, Persinger looks for a neurological basis, because what's the option? Well, either you were zoomed up to the ship and given the old anal probe and then sent back down, or some physiological, in this case geophysical or artificial magnetic activity is at the cause of your experiences. Now, in his book, The Neuropsychological Base of God Beliefs in 1987, he applied the use of complex electromagnetic fields to discern the patterns that will induce experiences called a sensed presence. Most of you will know what I'm talking about, that people often attribute to various perceived intrusions ranging from aliens to gods. A helmet, if you've seen it, you can just go online, you just type in Persinger and helmet, you'll see a picture. It just looks like a kind of an old style skidoo helmet or motorcycle helmet with electrodes in it. And this generates weak magnetic fields across the right and left brain hemispheres, specifically the temporal lobes, and more often the right than the left. Persinger believes that naturally occurring electromagnetic fields or geophysical activity may be the causal factors behind some religious or mystical experiences. Sven Robinson is a controversial figure in Canadian politics, represented the NDP party, the New Democratic Party in Burnaby, BC, since the age of 27, remained undefeated in the next 6 elections. In 1983, he was temporarily stripped of his title as justice critic after he commented to a Vancouver TV show that he supported the establishment of red light districts and houses of prostitution that would be government monitored and made safe for sex trade workers in Vancouver. Robinson was also quite active in the Dying with Dignity movement. In 1985, helped Sue Rodriguez in her battle to convince the Supreme Court of Canada to grant her the right to a doctor-assisted suicide. In 1988, at the age of 35,